Chapter 9. The Heart and Mind. Second section. The Heart's Sail. People generally tend to interpret themselves and other physical phenomena in the world as essentially material objects. Yet all material objects have one informational and energetic essence in common, which defies conventional perception. It is this essence that directs the behavior of material realization in the alternative space. The language of abstract symbols we are used to referring to is only sufficient to describe the outer manifestations of this informational and energetic essence. The original essence itself cannot be unambiguously described using the language of the mind. Hence, the magnitude of the philosophical and religious movements that have attempted to do so. The original essence itself cannot be unambiguous. Human perception is like this because we have been taught since early childhood to concentrate our attention on separate elements. Look at Layla. These are your hands, and these are your feet, and this is your porridge. Look at the bird. Our perception continues to be shaped and conditioned throughout our entire life, and so the mind constantly channels data according to an established template of how the world is described. For example, if someone has never seen another person's energy field, the mind will be reluctant for the eyes to perceive it because it is not consistent with the established template. In childhood, no one ever drew our attention to auras, and so they were excluded from the template we used to describe the world. Now we understand theoretically that the aura exists, but our ability to perceive it visually is poorly developed. The mechanisms of perception still remains a puzzle. Our current understanding is such that only certain elements of it can be discussed with any clarity. Ants, for example, have never seen the stars. They have never seen the sun, mountains, or even the forest. Their vision is designed so that from birth they only focus on the objects that lie in close proximity. An ant's perception of the world differs radically from our own. When we ask, "What does the world really look like?" we are attempting to pose an objective question in the hope of receiving an objective answer. But the question is not really objective. The world looks just as we see it. The world looks just as we see it because the notion looks like is also an element of the template that colors our perception. In the template of a blind mole, for example, the notion looks like simply does not exist. The world demonstrates itself to us in accordance with our template of perception, and at the same time the world does not actually look like anything. That there is no point in claiming that the world looks as it always has done, or looks like an accumulation of illuminated energy or anything else. there is only any point to speaking of the individual manifestations of reality that we are capable of perceiving. Consciousness is a product of human society and emerges from the concepts and definitions that surround us, whereas the soul, subconscious, is part of man from birth. Consciousness is acquired as the surrounding world becomes defined by ideas and definitions in terms of human language. The world does not only exist because people have described it using their own concepts. In this sense, the human soul will always be illiterate, for it does not understand the human language of words. The heart is only capable of understanding the things we call feelings. First, a thought emerges, and only afterwards is it formulated in words. You do not have to have words to think. Thoughts are primary, not words. And thoughts are the language the subconscious can understand. There is no point in trying to communicate with the subconscious in the language of the intellect. The existing set of concepts society uses is far from sufficient to express the entirety of human experience. As you can see, I was not able to fully describe the nature of outer intention. Fortunately, humanity has preserved one means of universal expression through art. We do not need words in order to understand works of art. Everyone can understand the language of the heart. This is the language of things created with love and passion. When a person walks through their innermost dream through the right door, i.e., does the thing that suits their soul best, they become capable of creating a masterpiece. This is how art is born. You can create from a conservatory and compose colorless music that no one remembers. And you can paint empty paintings that are technically immaculate, but no one would proclaim them a masterpiece. Yet, if you can say of a creative work that it has something, then it can at least be considered a work of art. What specifically that something is, the critics will explain, but one thing is certain, that something can be understood by all without words. The Mona Lisa's smile speaks in a language everyone can understand. There are no words. Words fall short of expressing the things we understand instinctively. What exactly is being comprehended is not important, as everyone has their own unique way of divining and feeling. You could, of course, explain that the Mona Lisa's smile is mysterious or that it has an elusive quality, etc., but words are still powerless to explain that special something that makes the painting nothing less than a masterpiece. Is it not just the elusive quality of the Mona Lisa's smile that evokes such avid interest? Have you ever noticed that the Mona Lisa's smile is similar to the Buddha's smile? People say that the Buddha achieved enlightenment during his own lifetime. In other words, people say that the Buddha, like the droplet of water, experienced a sense of oneness with the entire ocean. It's in all the pictures of the Buddha, his smile is totally dispassionate, and at the same time it expresses serenity and bliss. It is a smile that can be characterized as an expression of the contemplation of eternity. When you see the Buddha's smile for the first time, it evokes a strange mixture of bewilderment and curiosity because it reminds you of a drop of something distant and forgotten. the feeling of oneness with the ocean. Any reminder of this distant oneness touches a chord in the heart. When human language emerged, the language of the soul gradually began to atrophy. People focused too exclusively on the language of the mind, and so with time it began to take primary position in our experience. Even the story that explains how this occurred is told in the context of an intellectual concept. A distortion of the process is described in the legend of the Tower of Babel, in accordance with which the gods became angry with man for failing to construct a building that reached the height of the heavens, and so they confounded the languages of man so that the people would no longer be able to understand one another. In essence, the majority of myths and legends express a truth which has been interpreted via mental constructs. Perhaps the high tower serves as a metaphor for the power the people received when they learned to express their will consciously in the language of the mind. As we have said already, the heart can feel the wind of outer intention, but is not capable of putting up a sail to harness the wind's force. The will of the mind, however, can put up a sail. Will is an attribute of conscious awareness. Let me repeat that. The heart can feel the wind of outer intention, but it is not capable of putting up a sail to harness the wind's force. The will of the mind, however, can put up a sail. Will is an attribute of conscious awareness. Let me say that last line one more time. Will is an attribute of conscious awareness. The subconscious flight of the heart on the winds of outer intention is spontaneous and uncontrolled, whereas conscious awareness allows personal will to be expressed deliberately. Initially, before the languages of the heart and mind became so divorced from one another, harmonious connection between heart and mind was easily achieved. Later, the mind focused so intently on constructing a worldview based on its own references that its knowledge of outer intention was left far behind. Due to a colossal intellectual effort, the mind has achieved outstanding success in the technotronical world of material realization, but has lost connection with everything that is in any way related to the unrealized alternative space. It is because the mind has radically distanced itself from an understanding of outer intention that so many ideas within the transurfing model seem implausible. The mind can retrieve the knowledge that has been lost, but in order to do so, there must be a connection between heart and mind. The difficulty is that heart, unlike the mind, does not think. It knows. While the mind considers the information it receives, passing it through the analytical filter of the template worldview, the heart receives knowledge from the information field directly, without subjecting it to analysis, and communicates with outer intention in the same manner. In order to make this communication more focused, there has to be agreement between the will of the mind and the strivings of the heart. Union between heart and mind is essential. If you can achieve this connection, your heart's sail will fill up with the wind of outer intention and carry you directly to your goal. End second section, chapter end of the heart sail.